Welcome back for the weekly meta breakdown. Today we are going to be looking at standard best of one after the first 3 days of the new set Brothers War being released onto Arena. For those of you new here, what we do is we look at the top performing decks each week in each format on Arena. We're starting off with standard best of one because it's the most played format on Arena and has the most data, but towards next week we'll get all the formats out, and we're getting the data from Untapped GG, what you see on the screen today. Its companion tool runs alongside Arena Client, tracks your win rates, loss rates, deck collections, gives you suggestions what to build, a whole bunch of useful functionality, including in-game overlays. Link to get started with it is in the video description. I'll paste all these deck lists as well, so if you want to copy and paste them, everything will be in my video description. So let's jump into it. We are looking November 15th through the 18th. Platinum to Mythic Rank, 72,000 games of Magic being played. And the top performing deck of the week in quotations is mono white soldiers, so kind of a take on mono white aggro. In this version here, you're playing a lot of soldier themed cards, so you have like Yoti and Frontliner, 1 mana 1/1. When it attacks, another target creature gets +1/1. Also gets on Earth, so it can come from your graveyard with haste for the turn, but you have to sacrifice it. You have Recruitment Officer, 1 mana 2/1 that you can pump mana into to get card advantage. You have Lay Down Arms, which is like mini souls, like Path to Exile kind of effect. So Swords to Plowshare. You exile target creature mana value less than or equal to the number of planes you control, so it rewards you for being a mono white deck. You have Guardian, Thalia, Valiant Veteran as your Lord effect, Brutal Cathar's removal, some Siege Veterans to pump up the team and give you board wipe insurance, and then Myrel, which kind of shuts down your opponent's like instant speed interaction. They can't Wandering Emperor, they can't Infernal Grasp you at instant speed, they can't Urtai you, stuff like that. There's kind of two versions of the deck. Really the only difference that I saw was variations in the number of Mishra's Foundries. This one, it's a smaller sample size, being 100 games. The other one had 1,000 games, but it was a 4% lower rate playing 4 Mishra's Foundries. So you can kind of play around with these numbers to see. I like having more creature lands. I think in the long run it'll probably benefit you. And there's nothing too color intensive with this deck. You're not trying to do like Invoke Despair where it punishes you a bit more. It's here. Mono blue tempo list is still putting up 63% win rate. Nothing's changed in this list, so I'm just going to kind of go like skim through it. I'll paste the list if you want, but it's basically play Haughty Djinn, play Tolarian Terror, counter your opponent's stuff, draw some cards, slip out the back if needed. It's there, but nothing new, so we're not going to really highlight it today. We have an update to Grixis. So Grixis mid-range deck, so this was one of the top decks in best of 3 at least, with Fabled Mirror Breaker, Corpse Praiser, Bloodtithe Harvester, a whole bunch of removal. They've swapped out the Infernal Grasps for Go for the Throat. This targets non-artifact creatures. Notably, the land in this case, the Mishra's Foundry, is an artifact creature, so it can't target that. But it saves you the life from Infernal Grasp, so it's kind of the trade-off with the 2 mana removal spells. You still have your Sheoldreds in here. This version's playing a 5-drop in Evelyn and Solkanar, and then 3 copies of the new Blade Coil Serpent. So it's a 6 mana creature at minimum, so 6 mana 5/4. For every blue spent, you draw a card. For every black, your opponent discards a card. For every red, it gets +1/0 in trample and haste until end of turn. So it becomes a 6/4 trample haste, so kind of your top end threat. And then let's see if they're playing any of the new, yeah, they're playing a couple of the Underground Rivers, the new dual land from the set as well. So if you're looking to upgrade your Grixis deck, seems like Blade Coil Serpent is the way to go. We then go to Mono Black Aggro. So there's a couple different versions that I saw with this. This one's got the highest win rate so far, 59%. So you're still on your Invoke plan. Really, it's just changing up the 3-drop slot. So you have 4 copies of Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, 3 Phyrexian Flesh Gorgers. Honestly, I'd switch these numbers around, to be honest. So Gix is legendary, first off. It requires you to have an existing board to draw cards, and we've seen that a lot of the decks are either creature decks or heavy removal decks. So it's either going to get targeted the time it comes down, or they could kill your stuff on curve. Flesh Gorger has built-in protection with the ward. The lifelink's relevant, so is the Menace. And then just being either a 3-drop or a 7-drop has a lot of flexibility in terms of where you cast it on curve. It's mixing in a bunch of removal spells. You're getting some more of the 2-drops in this slot because of the Gix. You're also seeing an Ashnod here, 1 mana, 1/1, Death Touch. When it attacks, you may sacrifice another creature, create a tap Power Stone, and then you can exile a creature from your graveyard, create a tap 3/3 colorless zombie token. And then just the Mishra's Foundries that you see as well there. From mono white soldiers, we have Azorius soldiers. So really just kind of that core. You're seeing Spectrum Sentinel, Pro Multicolor in this case. I think the other options are probably better in the end just because there's so much monocolor removal. But you have stuff like Denick in this version, Harbin. You have like Sentinel, Zephyr Sentinel, Resolute Reinforcements as flash threats. Sure Strike Officer as a way to make soldiers when you attack, and you can draw cards from it, kind of that angle. You also have the Beach Hand. I was actually considering, this card's pretty free to play in even the mono white version, and it just gives you a mana sink in addition to your mana base to kind of pump up your team as well. So it's another interesting inclusion into the mana base of the mono white deck because you still hit white. It makes your laydowns a little worse, but you get the added ability to kind of pump your team. We then go to Boros Heroic. So this is a deck that's looking to cast a bunch of spells, targeting your stuff, getting bigger. So you have Monastery Swiftspear that has Prowess, Illuminator Virtuoso that's got Connive that gets it bigger with Double Strike, Electrostatic Infantry gets bigger every time you cast an instant sorcery, the Baird gets you tokens, and then you're kind of just targeting stuff. So Anger gives it Trample plus power and draws you cards. Homestead Courage gives counters and vigilance and flashes back. Kumano pings, pumps, creates creature. Lauren's Escape, indestructible hexproof. Allenbach Escort protects your stuff with 1/1 counters. Kami's Flare is removal and damage. Take up the shield as counters and lifelink and indestructible. And then you got some Angel Fire Ignitions on the top end with Antagonize just pumping through a bunch of damage. The mana base should improve on this deck. Get rid of Thran Portal, just play the Sundown Pass. I'd probably play 1 to 2 copies of the creature land. Because this deck has a lot of cards that are reliant on having creatures out, you do want to have some density of creatures. We then go to Azorius Control. I need to see why those aren't populating. Where are you? Okay, we're gonna have to do this the hard way. Usually like the first couple days because it's a third party. What do we got? Okay, I'll export. Let's go list view. Slows the sunset, silver scrutiny. So it's the Meek Stone that's not showing up the art for it. Okay, so it's just the Meek Stone. So this is a blue-white control deck. So some of the new cards we have, Soul Partition. It allows you to exile any non-land permanent. You can bounce your own stuff to reset it, but your opponents, you tax it for 2 more. Urza reduces the cost of instant sorceries and artifacts in your deck. It merges with the Meek Stone, which is 5 mana artifact that can that taps for 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you either draw 2 cards or -5/5 to target creature. Otherwise, you have just like some Teferis in here. This big Teferi is actually really good. Really hard to kill in just terms of traditional damage, just the way you draw cards all incidentally. This version's a little bit heavier on counter spells, but you're relying pretty heavily, honestly, on the farewells in the top end. Given so many creature decks, I'd probably have some copies of like the 4 mana sweeper. Wait, I'm skipping my mind right now. Depopulate. Just to kind of catch up, because if your opponent gets under you or sticks a Thalia, you're going to have a hard time catching up, and your Emperor is only going to hit one thing at a time. So I'd probably look for some inclusions of Depopulate in the list. That was at 57%. We then have Mono Red Burn. So this one's a little bit heavier on the creatures, but you're using Mechanized Warfare. 3 mana. Basically, if a red source or an artifact were to deal damage, it deals 1 additional damage. So you have stuff like Chandra that can ping for 2, Lightning Strike deals 4, Epiture entering the battlefield deals 2 damage, Kumano deals 2 damage, your Phoenix Chick attacks for 2, so a lot of utility in that sense. Reckless Impulse's card advantage in addition to the Chandra Dress to Kill. I'll show you a version I was playing after as well, that I was having a bit of success with. And then lastly, we have, they're calling it 5-color, it's basically Jeskai cheat into play. But you're trying to use a bunch of cards like Bitter Reunion, Thrill of Possibility, Faithful Mending, Fable, Celestis, Dragon War to put cards into your graveyard. Ideally, you want to put into like one with the Multiverse, Portals of Phyrexia, Kami War, and then you either have the option of using Brilliant Restoration to return all artifacts and enchantments, cheat these into play. You can use Invoke Justice, you can use Repair or Recharge, just to cheat these all into play and just kind of get all your 8 and 9 mana spells for like 5 mana and then kind of combo kill. The mono red deck I was mentioning, I've been playing around with a lot of stuff, so like just testing things out. I'm like 7-2 with this. I was playing a bit on mobile. So cutting the Mechanized Warfare, playing Jayas, just having more, like this provides blockers, provides more card advantage, using Bloodthirsty as a way to kick spells, and then just going like heavier on Chandra, more of the burn package, some strangles. It's been pretty good so far for me. It's helped in like the creature mirrors a lot. But all the decks I've played are on my profile. You can check them out, import them. I keep everything public. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you think, what you've been playing. As always, if you can, it's really appreciated if you could drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. All are free and easy ways to help out. And like I said, we'll be back next week and we'll cover all the different formats on MTG Arena for the new Brothers War set. Thanks for watching. Have a great one and stay safe out there.